The country of Wanana was a small mountainous region whose beautiful forests and famous Wana Lake were second to none. The inhabitants of this country were strong, cunning, and full of faith. The races residing in Wanana were vast. As in its early days of being founded, immigrant races of dwarves, elves, hobbits, halflings, orcs, and more were all welcomed, so long as their intent was pure. A prophecy was made on the naming day of this country by a sorceress, and it was one the inhabitants took very seriously. The prophecy said, "The moon shall shine gold, and the seven shall be born under the shimmering moon. Dungeons shall appear this day across the globe possessing great riches and unimaginable power. One among the seven will be recognized by all as the conqueror of the dungeons and is destined to become king of the world. Only under this king shall the world become united and experience an era of peace that will be unmatched." As it so happens, 300 years after the prophecy was proclaimed, the moon began to glow a golden hue. None were born on this night except for 7 offspring of various races scattered across the many continents. With their arrival to the world, several dungeons, large tower-like spires that reached into the heavens, sprung out of the grounds throughout the world. The Wanayans cheered, for the world's king was born. However, for peace to be brought about, there must be chaos and darkness present. This is what the dungeons brought to the world. The monarchies of the many provinces scattered across the globe sent in armies to explore the dungeons. They sought more riches and power beyond their wildest dreams. The exploration of these dungeons led to no riches or power. In fact, it only brought upon the deaths of hundreds of thousands of lives. Many years passed, and the world began to believe that the riches and power of the dungeons were unobtainable. Yet, the dungeons were still fought over by many kingdoms. It was like this throughout the world. Neighboring countries fought each other to seize the other's lands, resources, and dungeons. Lots of blood was shed, lives lost, and yet, this became the norm everywhere. Everywhere, except for the country of Wanana. And this is where our story begins. Omji's a 4-foot-tall green darog born on the night of the golden moon. Darogs are the names given to the race of half-orc, half-dwarf hybrids. He grew up in the country of Wanana in a small village hidden deep within the mountains. Many of the orcs and dwarves settled in this village to become miners and smiths and escape the violence of the outside world. Omji grew up understanding that there was no substitute for hard work. Some days, he was in the mines helping to collect ore. Other days, he was helping the smiths forge weapons, armor, and building materials. Whenever Omji had a free moment to himself, he would seclude himself in the forested area surrounding the mountains so he could train. Omji knew of the prophecy and thought that the promised king of the world could be him. He wanted to make sure that he was ready for anything. He trained his body to become as hard as the mountain itself. He tested his strength against trees, boulders, and animals occupying the forest. He felt that he would soon be ready to take on the challenge of capturing a dungeon. After a few months had passed, Omji said his farewells to his village and headed out to the only untouched dungeon in the world. It was the dungeon that resided within the borders of Wanana itself. On the journey to the dungeon, Omji had fought several of the country's wild beasts. He smiled after each victory and he told himself that he was ready to take on the dungeon alone. As day became night, Omji began preparations for setting camp. He continued until he heard screeching and hooting sounds coming from beyond the trees. Omji clenched up his fist and smiled. He yelled out, "I'm ready for a fight!" At least, he felt that way, until an owlbear appeared before him. Hey guys, Mr. Sepulveda here, interrupting this video just to say thank you for helping me reach over 1,000 subscribers on this channel. I'm really grateful. I honestly can't put it into words how I feel right now. So I'm just going to say thank you and welcome to the S-Squad family. So let's go ahead and get back to that story. The owlbear was fierce. It came charging at Omji with its large front paws and managed to knock Omji back, causing his footing to stagger. The owlbear quickly took advantage of the situation and tackled Omji to the ground. Omji took his left arm and swung it across the creature's head. Omji's left wrist had an armor-plated wrist gauntlet on it that he had fashioned himself. He called it his wrist shield. He thought it would be useful as both shield and weapon, and he was right. He began searching the ground for his axe. With his natural ability to see in the dark, he found his axe and ran for it. He had just about made it to his weapon when he suddenly got distracted by the large screeching sound the owlbear had made. Omji looked towards the sound and he was tackled from behind. Omji rolled on the ground and he was slashed by the claws of a second owlbear. It would seem the first owlbear wasn't alone after all. Omji, with his axe out of reach, could only defend with his wrist shield and attack with his bare hands. This didn't help much with two owlbears. One would distract him with their wings and screeching, and the other would slash at Omji's flesh with their claws. Things weren't looking good for Omji. That was until a fireball flew in from out of nowhere and made contact with one of the owlbears. It was screeching in pain with one of its wings visibly on fire. In the distraction, Omji swung his wrist shield into the other owlbear's beak. The owlbear began seeing spots. Omji ran towards his axe and picked it up off the ground with both hands. Omji lifted the axe above his head and swung it down on the owlbear, who was seeing spots. The axe was driven deep into the owlbear's cranium. The cracking sound of his skull being split could be heard throughout the forest. Blood splattered everywhere, and it began to trickle down the owlbear's face, painting it red. The remaining owlbear managed to stop the flame on its wing. It looked to face Omji, who had not removed the axe from the other owlbear's head. The owlbear lowered its head and ran away deeper into the forest. Omji took a deep breath and removed the axe from the lifeless owlbear. He was aching all over from the battle. Two thoughts began to cross Omji's mind in that brief moment of relief. The first was, what provoked the owlbears to attack him? And the second was, where did that fireball come from? A twig snapped on the ground to Omji's left. Coming out of the shadows was a cloaked 6-foot-tall humanoid figure. It began to approach closer towards Omji. "Who are you? And what do you want?" Omji questioned. The figure lifted the hood off his head to reveal his face. By his features, he was a half-elf. He had unnatural orange fire-like hair, a pale complexion adorned with freckles, and his eyes were shimmering green. "Greetings, Darag. I am Ruku of Wanana. I am a student of magic currently residing in the port city of Ramera. I owe you many thanks for taking care of those creatures. I may have accidentally trespassed into their cave while seeking shelter. I didn't realize how territorial they were until that very moment. So I fled deeper into the forest and I saw that campfire of yours and, well, you know the rest." As the puzzle pieces fell into place, Omji began to grow angry. I can see you're visibly upset, so to make it up to you, how about I heal those wounds?" Omji's anger subsided, and he let the mage heal him. Afterwards, Omji offered to cook up the owlbear, and Ruku politely accepted the invitation. As the two ate under the moonlight, Ruku began to say, "I just realized I never did answer your question about what I wanted. How rude of me. I am currently on my way to the dungeon of this country." "Why are you heading there?" "The stories about the dungeons taking the lives of those who enter has been ongoing for many years. The only ones who have a chance at conquering the dungeons are one of the 7? Well, that's precisely why I'm going." "Wait a moment, are you saying you're one of the 7 from the prophecy?" "I am, and I would suspect based on the energy you're giving off that you may be one as well." Omji nodded. After revealing who they were to each other, they each shared what they wanted to obtain from the dungeon. Omji wanted to be able to claim the right to be king of the world. Ruku wanted to absorb all the knowledge he could learn from the dungeon and then share it with the world. The two decided to join forces and headed for the dungeon when the sun rose. The road ahead of them will not be an easy one. At this moment, the gears of destiny have already been set in motion. Who will be destined to conquer the dungeons and become king of the world? I guess we'll find out in the next Dungeon Tales. I really hope you enjoyed this video and the artwork in it. If you did, please leave this video a like and comment which art piece was your favorite. Please let me know if you want to see a part 2 somewhere down the line for this story. And if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing and helping me grow this channel. I'll be posting again on August 22nd to let you all know what my posting schedule will be, along with some of my plans and goals for this channel moving forward. I can't wait to see you all in the next video, so y'all take care, have a good one, bye-bye.